All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. I hope you guys are having a great day, bringing that Friday energy to you. It's a good day for a second reason because we have Keshav Kolur with us on the podcast from Clive Capital. Keshav does quite a few things, multifamily, industrial. They do build to rent. And so a lot of experience to go into here. Keshav, thank you for hopping on the show.
Yeah, it's good to be here, Gabe. I appreciate you having me on and a good start to a Friday.
There you go. I told you before we got on here, we always like starting with stories and hearing how people got to where they are. In real estate, people always have very, very varied stories, and so I'm sure yours is not an exception. Why don't you tell us how'd you get into real estate in the first place?
Yeah, sure thing. I graduated college in 2019, and on my graduation trip with friends to Southeast Asia, like 15-hour flight, thought I'd read the evergreen Rich Dad Poor Dad book for the first time.
Yeah.
And so I read that book, and that got me thinking about real estate. It didn't get me thinking about syndications, but just owning real estate in general. And so I came back, I became a realtor in spring of 2020, and then COVID shut everything down. But once things opened back up, I helped folks sell and buy homes, just a residential realtor. I was going to start looking at buying single family residential homes and renting them out myself. Luckily, before I went too far down that rabbit hole, my roommate here, my friend, his dad had been investing in syndications.
Hmm.
And so my friend came across a Reddit post where someone was talking about syndications, talking about buying multifamily apartment buildings, and said, hey, I know my dad does this. You might be interested since you're a realtor in real estate now. And I reached out to the author of that Reddit post because buying apartment buildings, frankly, sounded a lot cooler than buying single family homes. And that was September of 2020. No one I knew, besides my friend's dad, had been doing syndications, but I still wanted to vet the concept for myself. So I took the next year to read books, network with folks, and find mentors and partners in the space. Felt comfortable enough to jump into my first deal, over 100 units, apartment building in San Antonio, and started seeing the cash flow and tax benefits come in as well. And I figured if I'm going to do this for myself, I want to do it for my friends and family and anyone else who's interested. It's no fun being on the beach all alone with mimosa or whatever. So I started my company, Clive Capital, in January of 2022, and we help primarily tech employees, but other high earners as well, build a passive, alternative investment portfolio outside of primarily consisting of real estate, multifamily, like you mentioned, industrial real estate, ground up, build to rent development. And we're also expanding into private lending and oil and gas, primarily for the tax benefits.
Cool. Yeah, we often talk about the benefits of real estate on here, and the tax benefits are definitely nice. So you got started in syndications. That was your first jump into real estate. I mean, outside of being a realtor,
Yeah.
you didn't start with single families. You just went straight into the syndication world.
Yeah.
And when you say syndications, you mean you were investing as a limited partner, not a general partner, not an operator.
Yes, yeah, and started out as a limited partner. Then a few months later, once the proof of concept clicked for me and I could show proof, then I started, hopping on these deals on the other side as well, in a co-GP, fund of fund, and like operator capacity.
Cool. Yeah, let's talk about that transition because a lot of people reach out. They're always curious how you go from no experience in real estate to being an operator, a GP on a deal. The way that most people do it is they get, and it's even the way that I did it was I bought a single family house, I started flipping houses, then I started buying a few rentals, and then I started getting into commercial. But there are different avenues, and I feel like that's important to call out for people who don't want to do single family. And honestly, if you guys are out there and you are listening, you haven't done a deal yet, I would suggest don't start with flips because flips it does sound nice, and you watch HGTV, and it looks cool, but it's if you're not a contractor, if you don't know what you're doing when it comes to flipping a house, it's definitely not all roses. So starting in the on the LP side is a really viable and I feel like a better alternative to getting into real estate. So why don't you tell us about getting started as a limited partner? What does that mean? And when you were just getting into it, what were the things that you were looking for?
Yeah, when I got into it, I wanted to, one, vet the concept for myself. You know, for me, it sounded too good to be true to get these double-digit returns passively, get the cash flow, get the appreciation, get the tax benefits, while just being a passive investor. So, you know, I read a lot of books. Like some of the big ones were like the Best Ever Apartment Syndication book,
Mm,
the Hands-Off Investing book by Brian Burke. And so these really got me comfortable with the concept of how to analyze deals, how to analyze, and more importantly, how to analyze people, right? The sponsors, the operators that you're working with, know who to partner with, who to trust, who to stay away from. And I think that's, you know, that's the most important thing. A bad sponsor can take a home run deal and totally screw it up, and a good sponsor can take a horrible deal and, you know, save it, maybe even hit it out of the park. Yeah. I
cool.
want to make sure that, you know, that's a good amount of information before I just start rambling on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you bought books, you educated yourself. Once you found that first deal, what were the things, you hadn't been in a deal yet? What were the things that you learned from being a limited partner? How did being a limited partner inform your not your decision, but once you actually got to be a GP, an operator, how did it inform you and educate you to prepare you to be a GP?
Well, I looked at what documents I was presented, right? And like what
Mm,
typically goes into putting the deal together, right? Like what is a PPM? What are the sections that are important, right? Like, you know, what happens if there's some fraudulent activity? Can we replace the operator? What are our rights? Where's our return structure specified, right? What happens if the partnership breaks up? And then where are all these clauses of, you know, acts of God and things like that, right? So I was looking for those, just like some of the big things, unlike the operating agreement, you know, how to read those documents. And then the financials, right? How is underwriting put together usually? How do you want to structure showing the pro forma, showing investor returns, showing how you're being conservative, showing sensitivity analyses, you know, different things like that. And then the pitch deck also, right? How do you structure a pitch deck? What kind of information should be there, right? Talk about the team, talk about the market, talk about the macro trends that are driving growth in the market or just in the industry in general, the asset class. Talk about the specific asset. And then the questions that I had when I was making my first investment, the questions, but also just how I felt, right? The fear that I had as a 23-year-old cutting a, you know, tens of thousands of dollars check to someone I hadn't met in person. I had met over Zoom, but never in person because it was COVID at the time. And just even to this day, reminding myself when I'm talking to folks who's it's their first time investing in syndication, I just kind of relive that experience in my head and try to answer the questions that they have, really make them feel comfortable and think about, hey, what kind of questions did I ask when it was my first time? What did I feel? And just trying to recreate that, you know, live in their shoes and answer their doubts and, you know, make them feel a lot more comfortable about investing their hard-earned money.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like that is one of the biggest benefits is just watching it unfold in front of you as an LP. If you haven't done a deal yet and you getting in the LP seat lets you kind of have front row seat to all the things that are happening, all the things that you need to do as a GP. So once you decided to be an operator to go out and do your own deals, what were the roles you took?
Yeah, I would definitely say I wasn't head honcho. I'm not head honcho because, again, I only have a few years of experience in the industry, and I want to make sure that I'm aligning myself with someone who has more experience than I do, who has a vast network, who has the net worth to sign on the loans as the key principal, as the guarantor, and who has the operational experience to know what to avoid and what to do right the first time so that I don't have to repeat those mistakes myself. So I really focus on finding a mentor and a partner in this space. On the operator side. So a partner at our build to rent development firm. My partner Andy, I found him when I was networking. I was looking for a few things in my partner slash mentor, someone who had been through market cycles and had been doing this for at least a decade or two. Someone again who had, well, I guess that's track record. Someone who's able to sign on loans, has that, key principal ability, but also other people in their network who can sign on loans as well. Someone who wanted to do this for at least another, 10 years, right? I wouldn't want someone who's just in it for another few years and then I'm just left hanging. And then someone who loves coaching, and teaching other people, mentoring, giving back. And so Andy met all of these. He's been in the industry. He has a lot of experience, and he's also a basketball coach on the side. So, and we see, eye to eye on a lot of things. And then the way I provided value, offer to provide value at the time was that I was 23, so I had a lot of time and energy to dedicate, and I had a network that I could raise capital from. And then I would help with acquisitions, finding new deals, underwriting them, putting the pitch decks together, talking to investors, things like that.
Awesome. So your main role, it sounds like, was on the acquisition side and the capital raising side. So really just networking. You were going out there, you were talking to sellers, you were talking to maybe were you doing marketing yourself? Were you sending out letters, looking for properties, that kind of thing
No, no, primarily just networking with folks in the
with brokers?
industry. Uh, yeah, brokers, people who are in the market where maybe they're a multifamily operator and
Hmm.
they're looking for apartment buildings, but they just happen to come across land. We primarily look for raw land where we can develop on. So,
Okay.
just building, yeah, building out that network.
Cool. And that is, I mean, that is one of the strategies that I don't feel is often talked about. If you're first getting into real estate and you want to be on the commercial side and you want to do your own deals, networking and being the person who's just going out there and having the conversations is a very important role. If you can find a deal, if you can bring in capital, and that's what those roles are. It's just going out there and talking to people. It's very valuable, and if you can do it well and you can present yourself well, you can definitely fit into a team of people that are a little bit more experienced that can help drive that deal to the finish line. So I love that. I mean, I feel like it's a great way to get into the syndication space. Um, when you look into the future for your own business, let's look 5, 10 years down the road. What do you see? What do you want to look back on and have built?
Well, yeah, so I'm part of kind of two businesses right now. One is as an operator and a partner, the built to rent development space, where we're building ground homes from the ground up and renting them out. And then the other is raising capital, and being a fund manager, just helping people build their private equity investment portfolio. And so, I mean, I have goals there. I feel like like a big, hairy goal for me on the fund management business is helping 10,000 households achieve financial independence over my lifetime, not over the next 10 years. Over the next 10 years, I feel like $50 million in capital raised. I feel like that would be a good benchmark. Um, and, on the built to rent side of things, over the next 10 years, if we could have 1,000, 2,000 homes completed, renting out, stabilized, gone full cycle on a few deals, I feel like that would be a good place to be as well.
Cool. So 200 houses a year and then $5 million a year capital raised. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that wraps up the first section. It's time to jump into the quick question round. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. It starts with, you've kind of already alluded to this, but we're going to ask it anyways. It starts with education. I need two recommendations. It could be anything. It could be the book you read already. You mentioned earlier. One for general life wisdom, and then one for real estate.
Ooh, general life wisdom. Well, real estate, I would recommend The Hands-Off Investor by Brian Burke. For
Okay.
anyone who's getting started in syndications, whether
Yeah.
you're an LP or GP, it's a good book. General life book, that's a good one. Hmm. I think, there's so many. A few that I really like that come to the top of mind is Think and Grow Rich. I really like that one.
Napoleon Hill. Yeah.
Yep. And then The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F.
That's from
Don't Want to Slow Down podcast.
who,
Yeah.
which one was that? The author?
Mm, Mark. I feel like it was, yeah, Mark Manson.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Good
I really,
recommendations.
I really like those two. Oh,
Yeah.
and then How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale
Oh, it's
Carnegie.
one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I've always hated that title. I felt it was a little manipulative, but when you
Yeah.
read the book, you just realize like these are genuine suggestions on how to be a good person in relationship, and yeah, it's a really good book.
Yeah.
All right, next question is for your younger self. So let's go to the Keshav who was let's say just graduating. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
I think it would just be to do, well, I mean, I don't know if this is a fair answer, but just do what I'm doing now, but sooner, right? Rather
Mm,
than, and then I would say that's one thing, just get into the syndication space earlier and move quicker. I
okay.
think I graduated as an engineer, and sometimes even today, I get stuck in analysis paralysis, just
Mm-hmm.
analyzing deals, analyzing people, things like that, rather than just making a decision and moving quickly on, maybe 80% of the information. So,
Yeah. We're gonna put that chalk it down to one of the I wish I got started sooner responses. We kind of keep a running tally on the show because
yeah,
90% of the guys that come on the show say they wish they got started sooner.
yeah.
Every time somebody says that, I point it back to you, the listener. If you have not started yet and you're just gathering information, take this as a kick in the pants. Go out there, get your first deal done. Everybody who comes on the show, they all say they wish they got started sooner. So this is your call to arms of sorts. You only need so much information. You just need to get out there and get your hands dirty. And that leads us to the next question. This is about the US. It's a big place. There is a lot of opportunity out there. Give me the single metro you're most excited about investing in today.
Single metro. We're in 350 of the homes that we're building right now that we're developing are in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Hmm.
And, like if you had told me, asked me where that was before I got started, I would have been very clueless. But our general contractor is our boots on the ground down there. They've lived there. They live there currently. They've lived there for years now. And it's the hottest market in Lafayette, just from talking to brokers and stuff, getting constantly keeping our pulse
Louisiana, you
on the
mean?
market. In Louisiana, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, very important caveat. In Louisiana, it's, not Baton Rouge, not New Orleans, it's Lafayette. And so
Yeah.
that's always encouraging to hear when you're building 350 homes in that
Yeah.
area. And just the growth that's coming there, as far as like the entrepreneurial spirit of the town, their schools are well rated, the food is amazing, and like I forget, but some news magazine rated it the number one place to live in America
Wow.
a few
Lafayette.
years ago. Yeah.
Huh. That's crazy. You'd
So
think, I always think of Louisiana as just being just constantly inundated with hurricanes. And so it doesn't sound like a great place to be. But I think Lafayette is a little bit more inland. So I'm sure they don't get swamped every year.
yeah,
All right. Next question is about raising capital. It does take money to make money. So, what is your favorite way to raise capital?
it's just from people that people that know, like, and trust you. For now, like friends, family, coworkers, and I would say two ways. I would say that's one, but then you tap out of that. The next way, which we're starting to grow into, is just social media,
Mm,
building a presence online, like this podcast that you have, posting on social media about what you're doing, just keeping people up to date, things like that.
yeah. Yeah, podcasts are a great way to create content and to meet people. I always suggest if you have an inkling to start a podcast yourself, just do it. It is so worth it. And once you get the structure and the foundation, the processes built out, it's super easy. I sit down every Friday. I have 3 conversations with people, and that's it. Takes 2 hours of my time, and you get content. It's a great way to do it. So definitely,
Yeah.
if you like podcasts, get into it. That brings us to the very last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. This is a two-parter. Where can they find you? And then what can they expect when they reach out?
Yeah, sure thing. On LinkedIn, it's probably the best way to find me. Just my name, Keshav Kolur. Probably one of the only ones out there, so it shouldn't be too difficult. And I'm wearing a very similar suit. So in my headshot, And the other way is to visit our website. If you go to clivecap.com, CLIVECAP.com /alternative dash assets, we've included information about why you should be investing in real estate, just some educational resources that really dive into the data, right? Like what are the returns like, typically tax benefits, why might you want to consider real estate in your portfolio? Why should you consider real estate in your portfolio? Risk and reward, things like that, and a due diligence checklist as well. Like I mentioned, when I first got into this space, I didn't know anyone who was doing this, and I wish I had read, the right questions to ask people. And there are a lot of resources out there, but I've just put together 100 questions that, regardless of what you're investing in, self-storage, like you, multifamily, industrial, like me, these questions, 100 questions will apply. So,
Cool. I will put those links in the show notes. So if you guys want to reach out to Keshav, just click the little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description. In there, you can find his links. All right, man. That wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
yeah, I appreciate it, Gabe. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. For everybody who's with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, reach out to me, Gabe at the realestateinvestingclub.com. If you want to support the show, just leave us a review. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.